Okay, so I think last week I called it Seek Wisdom. It's because that podcast we used to watch was called Seeking Wisdom, but it's
Yeah.
Save Wisdom. I must get the name right. So we're doing the Save Wisdom project, going through 1,000 questions. Maybe not all 1,000, um, but we're on to section two. Last week was, I can't remember now what they call it, early life and formative experiences.
Correct.
And this week is starting with values, perspective, and purpose.
Mm,
And I think
one of
that
my
that
favorite words.
yeah, I think that theme comes up again later on in the thousand
Yeah.
questions. But this is the first look at values, perspective, and purpose. Um, so yes, the first question I struggle with. I can't give an answer. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? I would live anywhere in the world, and in fact, I'd like to live everywhere in the world if I could for a period of time. So I don't think that where I'm living is that important.
Yes, I also couldn't really understand what is the relationship of the question to values, perspective, and I suppose to
Perspective.
perspective in
Mm.
some way. Um, so somewhere where I can avoid winter altogether,
Yeah, but then you don't
but then
appreciate summer.
yes, but then maybe like you said, maybe I want to live in lots of places
Yeah.
for a little bit because there is um, I don't know. I can't really say a charm, but there is something to, absolute cold, snowy, extreme winters. And there's enormous pleasure in these very long, hot summer days.
Yep.
Um, I would definitely do better on a permanent basis in a hotter climate,
Yeah.
more tropical climate. But I've look, I've lived in a few places um, and I also feel like I can adapt to
Yeah.
wherever you plonk me down.
Yep.
It's about how you perceive your environment and so on. So I think I can, and I have proven um, that it is possible for me to
Yep.
adapt. Yeah,
That's how I feel too. I think I quite enjoy that, the like new experiences and figuring out
yeah,
how to live somewhere else. So um yeah, I think if I could try a few different places, that would be quite nice. Maybe then I would have a better answer about where I would want to live in the world if I had experienced a few more places. For now I've only got Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Torquay, Devon, as my three places that I could choose from, that I understand what it's like to live in.
mm,
And I could still live in any of those places, I suppose, with some adjustments to my life.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh, this is deep. Question number 7. What brings you true happiness?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Um, you, I think you can very easily go for some bullshit answers to this
Mm-hmm.
question. Um, and I also don't want to sound too, I don't know, shallow or vain I, but I honestly don't know. It can be something very, very simple as, I don't know, sunrise or a sunset.
Mm-hmm.
It can be around a golf. It can be a meeting with colleagues. It can be a meal. It, I don't know. It can be so many things.
Yeah.
So it's not like I feel like I can box this in, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I have visions of a bathtub filled with Paul's homemade ice cream, uh, Vietnamese coffee
But
flavor.
again, don't you find that if you eat that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or you eat it for 3 days
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
row, you're kind of, it's not giving you
exactly.
the happiness that it gave you on the first the first
Correct,
one. Yeah, I think
correct. That's
this
what.
changes constantly, and something that made me incredibly happy today, if I replicated those events and the things that happen tomorrow, it might not give me the same level of happiness. Um,
Which
yeah,
is why um, drug addicts and alcoholics, etc., have to increase the dose.
yeah,
Isn't that exactly the same thing? Because what you think brings you true happiness now
yeah.
becomes a norm. Um, and the same thing happens with lifestyle and salary and those
Mm-hmm.
kind of things. You think it's a number that'll make you happy. If I have
Yeah,
this number, but if you have that number, why? That doesn't change.
yeah,
Uh, anyway, so
yeah.
going back to my original answer, I don't know.
Well, I think
Doesn't
it's
mean,
not that you don't know. It's just that there isn't one thing that brings you
yeah,
true
there isn't
happiness.
one.
There's,
I,
there,
I wanted to just quickly add there that it's not that I um, feel like I only experience misery in my life.
yeah,
I'm very happy.
yeah,
Hmm. Okay, what about the next one?
yeah.
How do you define success, and has your definition changed over time?
The second part is yes. Although I
That's
don't know if
easy
I've
to answer.
ever had a specific definition of success, but I know that when I was younger, I thought that having a good job, having owning a house, having a nice car, being married with kids, I thought those things kind of showed success, or that you'd reached some kind of level in your life that is where you're supposed to
Hmm.
be or meant to be or whatever. Um, Now, so without defining success, I can say that I think I'm successful and I don't necessarily have all of those things. And I think I'm successful. I feel like I'm successful. I could be more successful, but I feel like I am successful.
What are the things that you feel make you feel that you are successful? Because we've established now it's not owning a house and married with kids and all those kind of things
Yeah.
that you originally thought.
I I have a good lifestyle. I think I have a good lifestyle. I don't live hand to mouth, and I don't. This is going into the wealth part of it, but I don't struggle financially. I feel quite stable and comfortable, and I get to do things that I enjoy. Um, and yeah, I don't really. I used to worry financially quite a lot, and I don't worry financially
Mm,
anymore. Um, I mean, I still am very responsible with my spending, and I have a budget, and I do all of
correct.
these things. But I feel a lot more confident with where I am in my life, and I feel safe, I would say.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. So I think success. I think you have achieved success if you can get up in the morning and do what you want to do.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean not going to a job
Mhm.
or doing laundry or
Yeah.
whatever. It just means that you can do what you want to do, as
Mhm.
opposed to do things because you are forced to do them.
Yeah.
So, so I suppose in a sense, similar to you, when I was younger, it was like there were some financial, you always, success meant somebody who has made X or earns Y.
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of thing. And I suppose you looked at people's houses and you think like, these people, they've made it.
Yeah.
And as you kind of grow older or as you mature, you realize most of those people that you looked up to and thought that they had it all under control, they just have a shit ton of debt and
Yeah.
that they're actually drowning.
Yeah.
So for me, that changed it. Is I forget who said this, but somebody said, something to the effect of, you know, you you aspire to have many possessions, but the moment, now I'm butchering this completely, but it's about don't let your possessions possess you or own you.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if you have the fancy cars and the really expensive artwork and all of these things, I mean that becomes a burden. And Nassim Taleb said that you are only truly free, not when you're not a slave, but also when you're not a master. In
Mm-hmm.
other words, and that looks like really good to me. I mean, if things fall apart around you and you're not worried about this is going to impact my lifestyle,
Yeah.
how I spend my days, etc., then whether the inflation rate is through the roof or whether the government is corrupt or whether whatever, if these things don't impact or influence your quality of life,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that again can be achieved across the spectrum of possessions and money in the bank. So, in other words, what I mean by that is the guy who has absolutely nothing
Yeah.
has the least worries to a large extent. Although one could argue and say, well, maybe he doesn't know where his next meal is coming from, etc., etc. So you don't want to be that, but you understand what I mean
Yeah.
by you've got no mortgage, you've got no student loans, you've got no other obligations, you've got no private school fees to pay for kids, you've got
Mm-hmm.
no all of these things, they add up and become such a burden.
Yeah.
And then on the other spectrums, obviously those guys that have real FU money, and FU money is also a a number that means something different to a lot of people.
Yes. So, question on that one. Do you feel like you are successful?
I feel like I have too many things. I'm not. No. So I feel like I have achieved a level of success.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of things that I would like to still achieve. Um, but I do feel a little bit that I have collected too many things
Mm-hmm.
that for whatever reason, like I haven't picked up a guitar in probably 6 months, um, but I have 23 of them around the house. Yes,
But
it
so
is.
don't your guitars kind of bring you joy and happiness and
Mm-mm.
not? Okay.
No, they have to be cleaned. The strings have to be changed.
Yeah.
You have to worry about the corrosion and all of these things
Yes.
and so on.
Okay.
Whereas if I had one guitar that I played very
Mm-hmm.
often, it is actually a pleasure, and part of the process
Mm-hmm.
is to change the strings every now and then. It's something that I always enjoy doing. Um, Polishing it, making sure that the fretboard is in good condition, making sure that all the hardware is kind of clean, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a burden. So
If you have some fuck you money, there are people who can take care of that for you.
Well, well, that's the thing, um, it's I just feel that it's maybe time to actually start thinking about maybe somebody else can have a lot more
Yeah.
pleasure and joy, etc., etc. Now I've accumulated these things at some point, wherever I traveled. If I went um, to London, I bought a guitar. I actually bought two guitars in London. Um, bought bought a guitar in Canada, bought a guitar in the US, and so on and so forth. So a lot of these things have sentimental value
Yeah.
in terms of where I acquired them and kind of the stories around them. But I don't know. That's kind of like where I feel like, okay, it's maybe time to let some of the earthly possessions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I collect things. I don't know what I've thought about. I'm digressing here,
No,
but
that's
I
good.
thought
That's
about
good.
this is about why do I collect stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's guitars, watches, pocket knives. I mean, it's not like I carry these things with me. It's not like I sit and cut my biltong every night with these things. But they, anyway. So you know, if you have more than two, then I think you're a collector. So at least I sold three of the five motorcycles. So I only have
Okay.
two motorcycles that I don't ride at the moment. Anyway, but I have thought about what is it kind of like
Yeah.
um, in my makeup mind um, that turned me into a collector.
Interesting.
Anyway,
It's an interesting thing to
let's
think
move on.
about. I obviously have collections of things too, like these silly little Funko
Yes,
toys behind me, and um, yeah, I do also sometimes look at them and think, why?
correct.
Yeah, because
Mm,
do you know what? Sometimes collecting is a good thing.
true.
So, I think I've told you before on the podcast, I collect Christmas baubles of the places that I travel to, and
Mm,
I really enjoy that. And every time, well, I've only done it once or twice now, where I've put them up on my Christmas tree. But when I look at them and I hang them on my Christmas tree and I see them on my Christmas tree, I feel like something quite proud and nice about the fact that I've been to these places and I've experienced these things, and it's like a nice little memory of a time there. So, I mean, I don't know.
Hard Rock Cafe pins. I have like, I don't know, 50 of these things.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, can't help myself. I collect shit. Anyway,
Okay, let's move on. This is another big one. How do you define wisdom?
I don't know.
So I struggle to come up with my own definition that doesn't include
Mm,
words that are part of the definition of wisdom, because it's like, what is wisdom? It's hard to give it a noun, like a thing that it is, using without
mm.
using the words that describe it. I know that sounds really complicated, but um, for me, let's try and do this. It's wisdom is the knowledge, but their knowledge is part of the definition of wisdom, but that you gain from experiences that help you to make decisions. That's how I feel about it, I think. Um, and I suppose you can also gain wisdom from other people's lived experiences.
Yeah, isn't wisdom a life well lived or something like that? A well lived life. Because you know, you're 100% correct. We all try to learn from other people,
Yeah.
which is why we quote whoever, you know. Um, and which is why the ancient texts are so important, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you try to learn from those um, from other people's experiences, etc. But then we all have a very unique and different life that we live, and
Yeah.
you have to make decisions almost on a daily basis. You know, some insignificant and some quite big. Um, and we're obviously going to make mistakes along the way. It's about minimizing the big mistakes. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Mm-hmm.
um, to to so yeah, knowledge. I don't know knowledge to what extent. You obviously have to have some knowledge to kind of
Yeah.
translate into wisdom, because you need the knowledge to guide you when you make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
The wisdom comes from the combination of the knowledge and the specific circumstances around which you had to make certain
The
decisions.
experience, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I also was thinking about, because I don't know why it pops up a lot. I suppose it's in so many movies and things. The Serenity Prayer with the grant me the. Wait, I have to do it because I
Correct.
don't know the words properly. God, grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the
And
difference. Um,
yeah,
I just like that. I'm not big on prayers and things, but I just like the way that that's phrased. And obviously,
mm,
you hear it a lot, and it's what addicts use in recovery. Um, yeah,
100% correct. If everybody on this planet started their day like with that,
yeah,
you know, maybe we would be in a little bit better shape,
yeah,
because it's so important to that distinction between the two, you know, and where we should focus our. Yeah, I'd like to one day get to feel like I have achieved a level of wisdom, but I don't know how to. And I think if you look at some of the really important figures in the past, I don't think any of those guys ever got to a point where they felt like, okay, well, I'm the wise guy now, you know.
yeah.
Um, I don't have to try anymore. I don't. There are no more lessons to learn. I've now got this thing waxed.
Oh, I feel like that's maybe they have that on their deathbed. That's the kind of a dying man's thought, is that I've achieved wisdom or
Jeez, I don't know. If you look
yeah,
at kind of all of these studies about people on their deathbed, you know, and their
regrets.
regrets and that sort of thing, you know, is yeah. I'm pretty sure that that will come up somewhere in this thousand question about regrets,
I'm already
etc.
scared about what's going to come up. We
Yeah.
briefly touched on this. I don't know if it was during our recording last week or when we were just chatting. What does unconditional love mean to you, and have you experienced it?
Seems like every question in this section I'm going to answer, I don't know.
Yeah,
Um, I'm pretty sure I have experienced it.
yeah. You mean your feeling of unconditional love, or someone else's feeling of unconditional love, or both?
I think both.
Yeah.
So I think with your children,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and now with my grandchildren, it's kind of like, and anybody who's had a dog.
Yeah.
What is the opposite of unconditional love? Because anybody who owned a cat will have experienced. um, but yeah, I think in terms of those things,
Yeah.
dogs, really good example, I think, and children, your children,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they're young
Yeah.
and there's that age. Um, where, like I say, I now experience it with my grandchildren, kind of going through these different stages
Mm-hmm.
where there's just absolute unconditional love.
Yeah. So I've also been thinking about it. I think we had mentioned this before. There's a distinction that needs to be made between unconditional love and unconditional acceptance. Because just because you love someone doesn't mean that you accept everything
Accepting, yeah,
that they do or
correct.
decisions that they make, or I don't know.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So then it comes down to defining what love means. Yeah.
correct. Yeah. Look, we can spend, I don't know, hours on just this one question.
Yeah.
Um, it's a tough one. And like we said, maybe the the important thing about this is not necessarily to have the answers to these things,
Mm-hmm.
but to kind of let these questions swirl around in your mind a bit.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, pop up at the weirdest times, and you think about these things.
Yeah. Are we going to go on to the? We've
Oh,
done five. Do
number
we want to go through
12.
more? Okay.
We can do one more. We can do
Okay.
one more.
Okay. Do you
Do
believe
you believe
everything happens?
everything?
You go.
Do you believe everything happens for a reason? Why or why not?
um, I know your thoughts on this.
Really? What are
Yes.
my thoughts on this?
You think
Huh?
absolutely not. Everything does not happen for a reason.
Damn. Yes, that
um,
is true.
yeah, I think we've explored this a little bit in a previous podcast as well. This idea of predetermination and yeah, destiny and these types of things. Um, it's
Mm.
such a cop out, but I don't know. um, it's hard to accept that everything is random.
Why?
I don't know. It just feels like I don't actually know because I'm not religious, so I don't need there to be like a bigger picture. Or but it I don't know.
Um, I mean, I wasn't trying to trip you up there by
Yeah.
asking why. I want to understand what is it that is it because you feel that there must be some kind of order, um, or
Yeah.
will it make you feel a little safer? I don't know what the answer is to
Yes, I
this
don't
because
know. I mean, sometimes it just feels like things have happened for me personally in my life at the right time, like the right person has walked in to help me with a situation, or I don't know if that, like, is that all just random, or is it something to do with how I perceive situations, or I don't know.
I think we naturally try to make sense of these very random events.
Yeah.
Yeah, and afterwards we can rationalize it to ourselves and say, wow, you know what? That person came into my life at exactly the right point to help me solve this problem or that problem or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's also that thing about who is it that said, was it Confucius that said, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear or something like that. So, so I, I just recently listened to the book about the PayPal mafia.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it kind of like it goes through the whole history of, there's the two companies first, Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, and how they were at each other's throats all the time. etc., etc., and eventually got together, and and all the phenomenal things that came out of that thing, hence the unfair name, the PayPal Mafia. They could have picked something better than Mafia. But if you just look at all the wonderful companies and businesses, etc., that came out of that,
Mm-hmm.
and if you listen to the story and you hear how a lot of these things were so random,
Mm.
even the people that got involved, how Max Levchin met Peter Thiel was absolutely random. And how some of these other people, how they met and how they got to work together and how the whole saga unfolds, so many. I mean, that's obviously a very famous,
Yeah.
but there's so many other things. So let's take something like a football match or a rugby game. Is that is that predetermined by some higher order what the result is going to be? Um, who's going to kick the ball when? In which direction? Is it going to rain? Is it going to?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel. I don't know. It doesn't feel to me like what.
But it could be.
It could be. It could be that we are living in some kind of a simulation.
Yeah.
I've not discounted. Yeah, at the end of what is it, Men in Black? Where kind of like we we're actually inside the little pendant around the cats.
I can't remember.
Anyway, just
Yeah.
just go just go
Yeah.
find the closing few seconds of I think it's Men in Black. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it could be that we are just kind of living in some kind of a simulation. And like some of the games, there are rules. Okay, cool. We have to stay within the boundaries of X, Y, and Z. Um, but as long as we do that, we can screw it up. We can kill each other. We can rape and murder and pillage and all of these things. And we don't really know what the rules are. I mean, if this is a simulation in terms of, you
Yeah.
know, but honestly, I don't know. If you just think about all the misery and mayhem that happens every single day to innocent people, and to think that this is, it was their destiny,
Mm.
it is why they were put on this earth, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And I, I don't know how people explain that away in terms of, I'm sure they do, people that really strongly believe that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, I'm intrigued that you feel that there is some master plan.
I don't. I don't know what I feel. I don't. I genuinely don't.
Okay,
But I try to
okay.
look at it as it could be or not. I don't know. Um.
Look, I was very much raised to believe that everything happens for a reason.
Mhm.
Whatever you do is like, that is the plan. I don't know. Why show up?
Yeah.
Why try very hard? Why work hard and do the right things if it's all been predetermined?
Yeah. No, I
That doesn't
agree
make
with
sense
that.
to me.
I do agree with that. Food for thought.
I don't know. It feels like we can't end on such a
I know you're gonna have to
negative
choose
one.
a happy one there.
Oh, what keeps you humble and grounded?
Um, I'm not. No, I'm joking. Um, I mean, just life. I don't know. What keeps me humble and grounded? I guess things not going to plan. Um, mm, I'm not sure. I hadn't got
I
this
think,
far because I thought we were only doing 5 questions, so I hadn't given it much thought.
yeah. Well, look, I didn't I didn't sit and compose an answer about this one, but I would say what keeps me humble and grounded is the the people I get to spend time with and work with most days. I honestly just feel that I'm extremely privileged and blessed to be able to work with mostly good people. Um, and the experiences that I actually get from that. The, obviously, the experiences that I've had through my life in terms of different ups and downs and successes and failures,
Hmm.
um, those things really help to keep you humble and grounded. When you think you've figured stuff out and life just flattens you.
Yeah.
Um, but it's yeah, I think at this point it really is just the appreciation for the people that I get to
Yeah.
spend my time with.
That's a good answer.
Anyway, difficult section. I
Yeah.
hope. Just looking at next week's heading, it doesn't look like it's going to be any easier. Oh my goodness. I
Okay.
look forward to it.
I feel like we've definitely missed some here though that could be
Yeah.
interesting. So I don't know if we should do a second pass on values, perspectives, and purpose, or if we should move on. Some of them might need a double.
Yeah, I don't think I have much to add to,
What happens
but I'm
after
but
we
I'm happy.
die?
No, I'm happy to if you wanna chuck one or two of those in before we move on to relationships.
Okay, cool. Let's see. We'll have a
Excellent.
think about it. Cool.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Herman.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thanks.